My next guest is coming off a 39-second knockout over Brady Huang Tuesday night for Dana White's Contender Series, and he earned himself a UFC contract. And of course, it is Adrian Yanez. Adrian, how are you, man?
Man, I'm ecstatic, man. I am on cloud nine right now. I'm super happy.
Yeah, and wow, I mean, what a performance. Your boxing was amazing. To run us through the combo that knocked him out. It looked like you stunned him initially, and then you landed a few shots afterwards that just closed the show.
Man, I took a look back at a couple of his fights, and I had kind of noticed some openings that I needed to work on, and I knew I needed to throw in combinations. I couldn't just single pot shot him, so I knew that as soon as I threw something, something else had to follow. So on that right hand, I threw that right hand, slipped his right, threw my right, and I had to throw the hook. And I figured, man, might as well just sit down on this one. That's the one that initially connected that dropped him the first time. And then after that, I I started wanting to turn the corner because man, I felt like he was gonna want to shoot in and try to recover. So I didn't even want to give him that option. So I started throwing the punches and started cutting the angle at the same time and landed a perfect picture left hook that set him back down.
This is just 2 short days removed from there. Has it sunk in yet?
Man, I've it's sunk in. It sunk in like directly after that fight, like right after that fight, because I had nothing else on my mind. I was just ready for the fight. I was in there. It felt like no nerves, no jitters, no nothing. It was just the fight. I was just only focused on the fight. So once that fight was over, that's whenever I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm here. Like man, this is amazing. Like man, I did it. Like I got here. And then on top of that, getting that contract, I was like, man, I did it. Now it's just more of like, all right, cool, I'm here, man. I'm ready. I'm ready for my next one. I want to turn around. I want to get on to my next one. I want to get an official UFC fight. I might be signed, but I still haven't had my official UFC fight. So I'm ready. I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready to jump back in there.
I know for me, like I can always be my own worst critic sometimes. So no matter how good I do, I have this other side of me that's like, I don't know if you did good enough and this and that. You knocked your guy out in 39 seconds. Did you have this doubt that you're like, maybe I won't get a contract? Maybe he didn't see enough? Or did you just feel like, yeah, I did what he wanted to see?
I felt like I felt like I did enough. I felt like I did absolutely enough, but also I can always critique my performance. I shouldn't have let him hit me with those leg kicks. I let him go unchecked and everything. He did hit me with the right hand. Uh, he did hit me with the right hand, like in the beginning. So there's a lot of things I can go back and look back and critique myself. But man, after that was done, after I finished the fight, I had noticed that two others they went the distance. So I was like, you know what, my chances might be really good of getting a contract. So in the back, I'm sitting there. I was like, oh, I think I did enough, man. I think I might have done enough. And then that last fight behind me, ended in a weird. He broke his arm and everything. So I was just in like, man, I think I really am getting this contract. And then after that, once I got the contract, I was like, I knew I did enough. I was like, if like I went out there, I made a statement, and I knew I'm getting my contract. So uh, I can always go back and critique, man, but I'm just gonna enjoy this one for right now.
Oh, for sure. Well deserved, man. I mean, for me personally, it was a slam dunk. It was a no-brainer. Like I knew immediately this guy's getting a contract. But I just, from your point of view, I wondered if you were second guessing it or whatnot. I'm glad to hear that you weren't and you felt really confident. Now, another interesting point to this fight was, you come from a boxing background. Your father was a very good boxer, and your opponent was a boxer as well. So is it a little bit sweeter to go out and do, what your dad did and finish the fight, with your hands as showing your elite boxing?
Man, it was yeah. You explained it right, man. It was for me. It felt really great just to go out there and show my hands. That's one thing I pride myself off of. Like I started off doing jujitsu first, and then my striking came later. But man, like I've always been intrigued and always been fascinated with boxing and just boxing in general. Like my dad instilled that within me back in the old days. Like whenever they were having the Manny Pacquiao fights, the De La Hoyas, man, the Mayweathers, all them fighting, man. So I've always consistently like loved boxing. And also, here's a funny story: is that I remember people were talking to me about MMA, like talking to me about MMA, and I was just sitting there just being like, man, MMA is gay. It's just a bunch of white dudes, just a bunch of white dudes in underwear just rolling around. It was before it got more diverse, and coming to find out, it was like there was Brazilians and all these other, man. I thought before I even knew what MMA was, I was calling it like, man, it's it's pretty weird. But once man, like the turning point for me was whenever Matt Hughes knocked out Carlos Newton with that slam, and that changed my whole mindset. I was like, that looks pretty weird. He has him in a weird lock, but then he slams him, knocks him out. I was like, I can get used to that. And then I started seeing all these other knockouts because it was like the ultimate knockouts, like something like 4. You remember how they had those back in the day? So
Sure.
that's what tuned me into MMA. But man, I just was always fascinated with boxing with the hands. So it was really cool just to see it all kind of just come all around for that fight.
When you think back as to everything you've been through these last 4 years, it hasn't been 4 years since your father's passed now. Yeah.
Yes,
How difficult was it for you to kind of pick yourself back up, get motivated to get to the point where you're at today? I mean, you got to feel pretty accomplished to be where you're at right now.
man, it took me some up and downs, man. I fought like the 2 weeks right after he had passed, and like that one was for him. Like that one was for him. And then my next fight, I just felt like I was just kind of going through the motions, and then I ended up losing a fight or two later against a close split decision against a guy who's in the UFC now. And then I was like, okay, well, my mind wasn't right, so I had to fix my mind right for that time. And even then, I don't even think my mind was fixed. And I just was putting it in the back of my mind, just like not even addressing it. I knew that there was something wrong, but I just never addressed it. And so I kept fighting. Ended up beating 2 guys, and then I get the title shot against Miles Johns. And that whole entire camp, I just felt like I was just going through the motion. I kept going and going and going. I kept training. I showed up to every training session, but it was just it was just weird that like right after the fight, I just wasn't able to do enough. But I think it was just like a mental block of me not dealing with all these problems that were going on that was going on with my dad and everything. Like I just never faced it head on. And after that fight, I just kind of faced it head on because I felt like I had to do this for my father. I felt like I had to do this for my dad. But one thing my dad always told me is like, look, if you want to do it, you have to do it for yourself and nobody else. And then right after that fight, like my 2019, it changed all around. Like I took that mentality as like, I found my want. I found my own reason to want to go out there and fight. Not to say that my dad's not a big influence, but like my dad is not the sole purpose I'm staying fighting. The purpose why I'm fighting is because this is what I want to do, and my father would be really proud of me of doing something that I want to do, not something that he wants me to do, but something that I want to do, and that's what keeps me going. And then I finally owned up with this whole like promo stuff with the UFC, and whenever they're asking me those questions, it helped me out. I don't talk about my my problems with my father or anything, so it's really cool that I'm like kind of doing this in front of people as well. I really don't dive too much into it, so just me even just speaking to you like this, like I'm how can I say, I really don't do. I'm like a hermit. Like you ask me something, I'll just be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. But now that like that I'm here and I'm just like, well, like I have to let things out. I can't hold these things back in, because for the times that I've held it back in, you can see it in my performances. I wasn't doing enough. I was just going through the motion. And if I'm just going through the motions through all this, like it's not really for me. But right after I got over my own mental block and started doing this for me. Like my whole 2019, killer. Like I got 2 finishes. In my last fight in LFA was Calistrada, and that one went to war. And then my last fight, you know, whenever I was walking in, I saw the motivation. I saw my dad's picture where he's walking. So like he was trying to just spend more time with his family, seeing what he wanted to do, what he was working for. And I've worked hard for that Dana White Contender Series fight, and you know, for me to go in there and pushing for that, you know, it just all kind of just came together, and just, how can I say it? It just formed very well, and it all just kind of just served itself up on a platter for me, and I was just there and I took it.
Yeah, man. Well, again, amazing performance. And as I told you offline before we did this interview, I mean, as a journalist myself, I got to do the best that I can to be objective and not cheer for anyone. But at the end of the day, I'm still a human being. And this is one of the things that I love about Contender Series the most, is because it shows the backstory and the obstacles that people have had to overcome in their lives. And I know I told you, geez, it'll be at the end of this month now. It'll be 2 years since I lost my dad, and he was my best friend. And so, like, yeah, it's not easy. And I was pulling for you. So when you won, I got goosebumps, man, like head to toe. I felt like, you know, maybe my dad around, and it was really cool. So, you know, it was just an awesome thing to see everything you went through, and then the big win. Now, as far as leading up to this fight, you know, pre-fight, did you have any extra jitters? I mean, clearly, biggest fight of your life. You was like on ESPN Plus. How did you feel going into it?
Man, this was the most calm I had ever felt before a fight. Like the most calm. Like it was weird because it took me back to my first MMA debut. Like whenever I was an amateur, like even like had my first fight, like I was so like nervous, so scared. I wanted to cry, man. Like it was my first MMA fight. I didn't know if it was for me. I was 17 years old. I was still in high school and everything, so I didn't know. I was like, man, I'm about to go in there and fight a grown man, just like about to cry. And then I was in the hallway just pacing back and forth, and then I see my dad. And once my dad came up there and gave me a hug, like it was just like calm just set over me. And that night at the Apex, man, that's what I felt. I just felt the calmness. Like I felt that the whole entire night. And then whenever I walked in the cage, it was like nothing, no jitters, no nothing. I felt on top of the world whenever I got in there. I looked across the cage, looked at Brady, and I was like, man, sorry, buddy, but it's not your night. So, and it all worked out for me, man. It just that fight brought me back to my very first MMA fight, you know, and just how calm I ended up being, like after like the hug with my father. So at the end of the day, like I feel like my father was there with me that night. So that's what kept me calm.
Yeah, well, that's really great to hear. Now, post fight, you know, what was it like for you and your team? I mean, I saw your post fight interview. You just couldn't stop smiling. You clearly had that energy about you that, you know, you accomplished something. I mean, this is just the beginning, though. You know, you have a lot of things left to do in the sport. So, you know, how has it been since? Like, what has your life been like these last couple of days?
And these last couple of days, I just been seeing all the love and support that I've been getting, and then like how this is also another big reason why I have no problem starting to talk about the things that's been going on and all that stuff, is that I'm starting to see like the people that I've been helping, like a whole bunch of people have been messaging me saying, man, thank you so much, like thank you for sharing, and then thank you, like, man, like people messaging me saying, man, my dad was my best friend too, just like, man, like I'm dealing with this, and like thank you, you fought. And I was like man, like they just could relate to me, and I just felt really connected with everybody who was reaching out to me. So I was really blessed by that, man. Even with whenever you reached out, I was like, man, that felt really good. That feels really good to me, knowing that like, hey, like not only am I going through things, everybody else is going through things, and we can all work through this and get better. You know, just like I said in the post fight interview, like, man, it takes it's a step at a time. And then also, man, don't be afraid to reach out, man. Everything that we're doing through this life, we have people around us for a reason. Like no matter, even if you do or don't know the person, man, like you can always still reach out. There's also numbers that you can go out there and reach out. And like there's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of help out there. But also kind of going back, man, it was just really great. I got like also a whole heap of support, man, and then I got to achieve my dream. This was my dream. I wanted that UFC contract. So everything, it was just a mixture of things that just made this so freaking awesome, man. It just made it so freaking awesome for me, and I just been on cloud nine ever since I left Las Vegas with the contract.
Yeah, as you should be. How was your training, during this pandemic leading up to the fight, and how is it going to be, moving forward as far as getting in the work that you normally would?
Man, I haven't stopped training since the beginning of the year because I had a fight lined up in March, but that got canceled due to COVID. We probably only took a week or two off before anything. We ended up finding a small little warehouse and training in there for the time being, and then finally we moved into another facility, and which was a blessing for us because it's a huge gym. It's like a 24-hour fitness, but with MMA, like with MMA equipment as well in there. So like we're blessed. Metro Fight Club combined with O Athletic here in Houston, Texas. So like it's made it better. And then also too, whenever it comes to the fighters and everything, we keep it small. We're really not we try not to add like new people into like our MMA sessions, like the sparring, like the pros spar with the pros and the pros train with the pros, because we don't like look. I was fighting in the contenders, and I didn't want to lose my risk of somebody else coming in and accidentally like giving it to me, and then I'd lose my spot. Then also we have two other people that are fighting on the contenders, Jacob Silva and Leomano Martinez. We don't want them to catch COVID-19, and then they had to pull out and go quarantine for 2 weeks and all this, and them probably lose their spot. So we just been being safe, and we've been keeping our training small. Like we have like 6 to 12 people. Big classes, like a big time class for us would be 12, but on the smallest day we had about 6. So we usually kept it between 6 and 12, all the same training partners. And like if you even felt a little bit sick or you felt a little bit off, man, hey buddy, you gotta go home. Like, you're not ruining this for you're not ruining this for us right now, man. Go home. So we've had some good training sessions. That's why whenever I walked in there, I was also another reason why I was really big and confident, because man, I could have gone 5 rounds that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I know you said that you want to stay active and you're hoping to fight again, possibly very soon. When I look at your record, man, I mean, you're 11-3 now. You're on a 4-fight win streak, and 2 of the losses that you have are to Miles Johns and Pilarte. They were split decision losses. So you've been one of those guys that's been right on the cusp of being in the UFC anyway. So this probably wasn't too big of a surprise to you to get this Contender Series call and then to go and do what you did. I got to imagine you probably want to get one of those losses back, right?
One or both. Man, one or both, man. Domingo still like he'll message me every once in a while on Instagram and all that. Man, like the guy, man, but I just want to redeem. I just felt like I want to redeem myself. But also too, man, if those fights don't ever come up as a possibility again, then it's no skin off my bones, man. But if let's just say like if you're putting me up against like a random person, and then you got like Miles Johns or Domingo, I'm gonna pick the 2 guys who I lost to, because for me, I want to redeem myself. But if they're not part of the option, then man, I'm not gonna go around chasing them. I'm gonna fight whoever's in front of me, man. Whoever, whenever, I just want to fight.
How do you feel you stack up with the guys, say, like in the lower half of the top 15 of the bantamweights right now? Do you feel you can go in and compete with any one of those guys?
Oh yeah, I feel like I can compete with anybody in the world. Like I stated my case, and as you can see, my boxing is already getting compared to people like Jorge Masvidal. So that's a really good comparison, which I love. But man, I think I think my boxing is top notch, and I don't think a lot of people can really mess with it. Like I don't think a lot of people can compete with me in the boxing department. I'm gonna have to be working on my takedown defense for probably the rest of the time I'm in the UFC because nobody's gonna really want to stand with me.
Mhm. Yeah, I was thinking when they were making that comparison to Jorge, obviously the boxing is probably where they're going, but some people say maybe you guys resemble one another. I think it's this thing you got going on down here. It's a little bit of
Yeah.
that was like Jorge.
Yeah, man, it's funny because there's a couple it was Jorge Masvidal and then Sergio Pettis. Those are the two people who I got compared to the most looks wise. The old young Jorge Masvidal, whenever he had the short hair, like the buzz cut and everything, the fade and the goatee, that's when people were being like, "Oh, he looks like a young Masvidal, a young Masvidal." And then after that, there was one time I went to California to go train, and I was training at Rain Training Center with Mark Munoz, and this guy came up to me. You know, I don't know how cool he was with Sergio Pettis, but he came up to me talking to me like I was Sergio Pettis, and I'm just like, man, I'm not Sergio. I'm not Sergio Pettis. Like he was like, yeah, what's up, Sergio? It's like, wait, who do you think I am? It's like Sergio Pettis, right? It's like, I'm like, no, no, I'm Adrian Yanez. I'm from Texas, bro. So like, you can't see my mouthpiece because we were sparring that day, and I had my Texas mouthpiece, man. So I got called more Sergio Pettis than Jorge Masvidal, but I'm really glad that I kind of got over that Sergio Pettis, because if my fighting style is getting compared to Jorge Masvidal, I'm completely cool with that.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's a great comparison for sure. And Sergio has done his thing as well. So a couple of good comparisons right there, my man. Now, who is next? I mean, if you could pick and choose who you would like to fight, does it matter right now? Or are you just looking to get into the octagon and fight?
Man, I just want to get in the octagon because I can name people, but at the same time, like most of the times, it's like everybody always wants to aim for the top guys, but I understand my reality, and I'm just getting my feet wet into the UFC. So, man, if somebody falls out, I'm in. If they book me a fight, it's gonna be somebody who's on the lower tier. So of course, I wanted to fast track myself all the way up, but also I gotta take a step back and look, man. I'm just getting my feet wet. It's like I have to. It's almost like the Mortal Kombat towers. You have to go a fight at a time. You can't just be like, oh man, I want to fight Shang Tsung, but you're still at the first level. You're still at the first stage. Yeah, you can say you want to fight him all you want, but you have to actually start the tower to even get up there. So, uh, anybody can get it.
2 years from now, where do you see yourself?
I see myself in the top 10, for sure. The top 10. I'm gonna be breaking the top 5 by in 2 years.
And so end goals, I got to imagine hoisting that bantamweight belt around your waist, putting it up over your shoulders, showing the world. I mean, how far away do you feel like you will be from that?
I would say I would like to say 2.5. I would like to say 2.5, but also I know there's a lot of things I need to work on. There's a lot of things I need to fine tune and crisp because man, man, I don't have I didn't have the time to train 2 times a day like most of these people in the top 15 do. So now I have to catch myself up. I'm always playing catch up right now because I have a full-time job and everything. So once I leave that and I'm able to train full time, man, you're gonna see me skyrocket. It's not gonna be this first year that you see me improve. That second year, moving into my third year, that's when you see the most improvements, and that's whenever I think I'm gonna capture the UFC title, which I'm hoping, I'm planning, and those are my goals. I'm setting them like that. So I accomplished my first goal. Now next step, next step, next step.
How long until you can give that 2 week notice?
Oh man, I'm hoping soon. I'm just waiting to hear back from my manager trying to set up a schedule of when's the next available fight. If I get one in 3 weeks, man, I'm putting it in tomorrow. I'm putting it in tomorrow. But man, I'm also got to be realistic because if my next one's not for 9 weeks, I'm just like, all right, cool. have a little bit more time. I can put my 2 weeks in a little bit later, but during this whole pandemic, I know they've been looking for a lot of fighters, and man, I'll tell you right now, I'm ready to fight. If they need somebody, man, let's just say, Frankie Edgar drops out, man, I'll pop right in, man. I don't care. It's like I don't mind jumping at the deep end for that fight.
Well, you clearly have a bright future, Adrian. And again, congratulations on that monster win and getting yourself a contract. Very well deserved. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to join me here today. Before I do let you go, if there's anyone you want to thank or any social media you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Oh man, I just want to thank everybody for supporting me throughout these years, man. I want to give a big thanks to my coach, Saul Solis, and I want to give a big shout out to Iridium Sports Agency, my management team, Jason House and them. They did a phenomenal. They've been doing a phenomenal job for me. Also HKA USA, their gear, man. They provided me my training gear for this training camp. Man, it's been a blessing, man. I've been blessed with the right people around me, man. And also follow me on Instagram, Adrian Yanez 93, Twitter, Yanez MMA, keeping it simple, just so everybody knows how to get to me.